Welcome back. So, with garage floor space increasing with time, it also means that we've got more parts under the hood. Blake's been working hard. We've got turbo on, we've got the valve covers on, a few other miscellaneous pieces. Interestingly enough, this clear piece over the cam gears, if I had a GTE head, and I know we've said this many times before on the channel, it would have been so much easier to find a clear plastic top here. I think you can get, there's about a dozen different eBay brands for about $12 or $13 a piece. And they come from all over the place. This one, there were only two different ones that I found, and this is the cheaper one at $120, and it came from Australia. So that's the unfortunate other side with dealing with this GTE head. Also, the turbo manifold we had from Superstore, again, limited options, that was the best one at the time. I guess, Blake, you were saying that the flange was slightly bent where the bolts were, so the bolts were almost at an angle.
Where the bolts were tapped, they weren't tapped perpendicular to the flange.
Yeah, so Blake spent a good portion of yesterday getting that fixed with our friend Jerry, getting things straightened out so we could get the turbo on correctly and getting the bolts up.
Yeah, it was -10 fun.
Yeah. So Blake, what all are you putting together today then on it?
Today I've been working basically putting all the things back on that I took off yesterday. So I was working on finalizing the mounting of the exhaust manifold and the turbo and the oil line feeds and alternator and all that kind of passenger side of the engine. And so I got all that put on and then went to set the turbo and then it didn't fit. So I couldn't mount it. So I had to then take all of that back apart, spend about 4 hours fixing it. So today I put all of that back on again, and I've been working on getting the chassis grounds up front done, getting the oil feed done, and basically the caveat to all of that is doing it well involves installing some P-clips or brackets or things to make sure that any hoses don't end up anywhere you don't want them. That's kind of the difference between putting a car together and putting a car together that's reliable. So there's a lot of time that just goes into sorting that out.
Right.
So right now I'm getting the intercooler mounted and aligned, and then I'm going to build some, I said this a bunch in the old videos, that I'm going to, what I would call a positive retention mechanism. So basically it's just going to be a little aluminum bracket that's welded to the charge pipes, and then that'll have a bolt that'll go through the front where the intercooler mounts. So the intercooler is hard mounted to an item that has a little bit of flex in it. Those charge pipes will have a bolt that'll sandwich that aluminum that's bolted to the charge pipe. It'll bolt that together to that front core support area where it can't come loose under boost. Right,
and we talked about that early in the build. I just have seen a lot of guys, they start building boost, and before they know it, they blow off a hose or something, just under boost for the intercooler or whatever. So that's just alleviating future problems right there, and we're just now finally getting to the point in the stage where we can do that.
Yeah, we needed everything to kind of be in the final exact position. There's not a lot of room for give in those parts, so it's important that everything's in its final spot. So I'm working on, I've got some cardboard aided design working on right now. So get that all done, get those tigged in, and then we'll be able to final mount that, and that'll finish most of the passenger side of the engine bay. I've got to get the cooling system in and get the cooling pipes in, and we've got to get the heater hoses. That's probably the next thing we need to order in. And then I'll be working on the fuel system on the driver's side.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Bit by bit.
Cool. As for me today, I'm going to try and, we talked about that last episode where the gauges, these kind of just sat at a different angle further back. I'm going to try taking them out, and then I see these are kind of flush, so I'm going to try and angle them a little bit more straight. So I'm going to try and work on that while Blake's working under the hood. It's really hard to judge and see where everything's at on camera. I know because when I watched kind of the last video, I kind of rewatched it and said, you know when I was sitting in the car, it looked just way off, like the gauges were just pointed way up, and it wasn't hard to read them, but it just didn't look right. So now that I got them in, that looks just how a dash should be. It's not perfectly in place right now, but it's enough in place that I know once I set it back in here, because that's pretty much its final resting spot right there, that looks like the gauges are actually facing me, like they're supposed to be there. So I think now that I've manipulated that piece in place enough, I'm going to try and reseal it up, maybe put some screws back through, and we'll set her in place for its final spot. Had to take off that A-pillar pod just because it was really, really hard to get it out last time, so just dropped a couple screws and put it in there. But we'll put it back together, and that should be good for that.
So that'll get that in place. The 90s will fit. I gotta figure out what we need for the last couple fuel rails, or fuel fittings, but
Okay.
it's looking promising.
Is there anything you want to add from last episode of progress we've done on the car? I know last week you sent me some pictures of you hooking up the ECU and had it working and running.
Yeah. That's about all I've done on the ECU. Like I said, I came back around to get some engine-based stuff done to start kind of prepping the last of the wiring to get the plumbing sorted, since we have fittings and things we need to order for that. We don't have anything else. I don't think we have anything else we need for the main electrical system. Maybe a connector or two, nothing major. So I've been primarily concentrating on fittings and stuff we need to order so that we can kind of keep things flowing there. And then as we order stuff and get back to the electrical. And then, like I said, the exhaust manifold was a bit of a thorn in my side. So I haven't gotten as much done as I liked. But compared to the last video, last time underneath here, this was just a mess of wiring. So this is where the ECU sits. This will just get double stick tape down essentially. This is just a wideband controller, just a little aluminum box. It's not heavy. So that'll get connected down here, and then this is basically all the wiring. This was factory GM wiring. I changed it to these Deutsch plugs. I just don't like the Metropack plugs as much. And then this plug will be for the boost controller, which is going to sit down here. And that will pick up off of the turbo. We'll put a quick disconnect fitting right there, and they'll just be quick connect, quarter plastic to run up to the boost controller and then down to the gates. And then, yeah, that basically is it. The wiring up here is just laying in place. That gets stands and brackets and clips and everything to hold it in place appropriately. But what you see there, minus a little bit of cleanup and touch up, is essentially all of it. Yeah, I need to clean that up in the file.
No worries.
Must have gotten whacked on something at some point.
Well, even though we still got a bit left to go, you can kind of get a judge of it here of how everything's looking. And this is the first time I've seen, and I know everybody at home has seen, kind of the black powder coating in place, so you can kind of get a theme of what's going on here. I like it though, because silver of the car, a little bit of the pipes that I don't know if I'm gonna, powder coat or not, but even so, they'll still be just silver and black. Looks really clean, looks good. I think it's gonna come out awesome. So, yeah. Well, thanks for all the hard work, Blake.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I think we're getting there. The last 10% takes 50% of the time, unfortunately. So there's a lot of little details. Like I said, the coil bracket adapters for the IGN 1As don't fit, so we've got to redo those.
Yeah.
That's kind of the name of the game on this, really, though. It's just, what part are we hacking up to make it fit next? So.
Right, and it's little stuff too. Like I talked about in the last video. Here's the difference here. This is the fuel pressure regulator I had before, and it's only got -6 capable. Or here's the other one where we've got -8. You can go in or out on different sides. It's just a much better unit, so we can mount that, get that in place, and just little stuff like that along the way. We can get whatever. Did you happen to get a length for the drive shaft or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Next time it comes up in the air, again, I was intending to be about a day ahead of where I'm at before I got foiled.
The turbo manifold.
But so it'll probably be in the next few days.
Okay.
I'll get it up in the air. We're going to drive shaft length. I need to look at a few other things in my car as well.
Sweet.
I've got to get the positive retention mechanisms for these charge pipes. This one's got to get cut a little bit. It doesn't line up quite perfectly.
Okay.
So I knew that before. I wanted to wait until the engine got fully set in its proper position before I cut anything up. So this charge pipe, I'll just do a quick cut and then re-weld it to get that alignment just right. But once that's done, I'll put it up in the air, and then I need to install some Christmas tree clips for the zip ties to hold all of the starter wiring. I don't want it just flopping around where it can get caught in something that moves. So I'll get up under the car and get that put in. Once that's put in, or while that's up in the air to put that in, I'll get the drive shaft measured and we'll check a few other things underneath it. Start figuring out how I want to run the last couple of fuel lines. Because I think we might need 1 or 2 fittings for that.
Okay.
Nothing too major. And then we'll get the fuel lines put in, and the starter's almost done. I've got to hook up the starter sense wire, and I need to put a connection in under the dash for it. Once that's in, and the fuel system's in, and the turbo drain line and oil pressure sensors are in, which we have almost everything we need. We need one more fitting that goes under the intake manifold that just runs to the brake booster. Once all that stuff gets put in, we should be ready to fire it. So I mean, it won't be drivable, but we can fire it up real quick just to make sure that everything's generally happy.
Yeah.
And then we need to get the heater hoses. Really, that's the last thing in the cooling system that's needed.
Awesome.
So the rest of this stuff's already here, so the radiator can get dropped in, and yeah.
Good progress. It's kind of like a house. You see a lot go up at first. You get the stick figure and you're like, man, this thing's going to be done in a week. And you realize, oh no, it's the final details that take a while. So, but every week we're a little bit closer. So as we go, things are good.
Yeah, bit by bit, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's the unfortunate stuff like the parts that don't fit, like I said, the coil pack brackets and the reworking the exhaust manifold, that stuff. You burn a day here and there real quickly. It's very easy to see 18 to 20 hours disappear. That's the bad side to building stuff is, especially stuff that's this custom, that's not, nothing's off the shelf here.
Right. No, and we talked about this kind of at the beginning too, where when you're fabbing something from scratch, for those that may be interested in pulling a project off like this, hats off to you. I think it's awesome. We're obviously doing, I'm glad we're doing it, but at the same time, you got to think in place. It's not all as cut and dry as it may seem on paper. Once we start going, you realize, oh, that doesn't fit. Ooh, how are we going to do that? Well, that part I ordered, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to return that and get the right part. It's little stuff like that really takes away the time and sometimes added cost and make it happen.
And then there's all the stuff like I said, like the little Christmas tree clips and zip strips for the electrical harnesses and P-clips to hold like the oil feed line. I had to drill a hole and install a rib nut, install a P-clip to hold that in place so that it can't get close to anything hot. But it needs to be done in a way where the engine can move and you don't put undue stress on things. So each of those things needs to be considered when you're doing it. When you take apart a car that GM or Toyota or Ford or whoever built, you'll see a lot of things where you go, this is annoying, why are there 47 clips holding this wiring in? Well, it's so that it can't end up in a place it's not supposed to be. And sometimes that's maybe over-engineered, but most of those things have a reason, right? They didn't spend their time and money doing that for no reason. And that's a lot of what you want to replicate when you're building custom cars. There's a lot of thought that goes into making it easier to service than stock, right? OEM cars, they don't generally care all that much about how difficult it is to service. If you have to pull the engine for something, whatever, the dealer just makes more time on it, right? Cars like this, you want to make it so that if you need to pull the turbo, you're not cussing yourself later. You try not to screw over the next guy that's going to work on it.
GM Opti Spark.
Yeah.
Listening?
Yeah. But yeah, I try, there's a YouTuber that I watch called AVE, and he has a quote that says, try to never screw over the next guy, because the next guy's probably going to be you. You know, there's a good chance, you know, there will be things that will need change. There will be work that will need to be done on this over time. It's just the nature of, you know, you want to make 1,000 horsepower. You're going to break some stuff. Things are going to wear out. That's part of the game. And you want to make sure that you don't build yourself into a corner. So there's a lot of thought and effort into specific things on here to make sure that they can be worked on. And unfortunately, that's the difference between a sloppy mechanics build and, you know, stuff that works well.
Taking our time, like Blake and I definitely have, and doing an exceptional job. If I haven't said that a million times, I'll make it 1,000,001. But it looks awesome, and I think the end result, you know, even when it's out of Blake's hand and I'm driving it regularly, I think that's going to show when I, you know, go to change the oil, or like, oh crud, this melted, I need to replace it. It's going to make sense because of how we designed it. And
yeah, changing the oil filter doesn't look that fun.
No,
but that's not because of your car. That's because of where Toyota put it.
That's a Toyotaism. But you know what? I'll deal with that.
If it's too annoying, we can always put a remote mount oil filter on.
I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it'll be more of a mess than it'll be hard to get to.
It cants down. So I would expect it should mostly drain
the
engine.
That won't be too bad. I can get my arm up underneath, in between that sway bar and the steering rack.
It's better than changing spark plugs in your old turbo setup.
Heck yeah. Well, that brings us back to where we started with that blue Trans Am or Firebird or whatever it was that was in Jiffy Lube that saw the LT1, and the guy said the reason why is because I don't like changing my spark plugs on an LT1. Go figure.
So look here, I put all the spark plugs in.
Dude, money. Number 6 on the back is easy.
Not bad at all.
Nice.
You need the right. You need a 3-inch extension and the right spark plug socket. It's a little fussy, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, man. Every step's a little bit closer. One last thing before I wrap it up for the day. For those of you that remember the gimbal, I know I've gotten a lot of notes on the side outside of the YouTube channel that, you know, one guy even commented on one of the previous videos, don't spend money on powder coating, get a new gimbal. Well, I got the next best thing. You're watching this via a brand new GoPro 9, which has image stabilization built into it. So
I didn't know there was a GoPro 9.
It just came out. And another reason I got
it is... the GoPro 8 came out not that long ago.
Right, and they were crazy discounts. Wonder why. And then sure enough, they dropped the 9. And the 9 is way better. I mean, maybe if this video sucks.
It's very fancy. Yeah, if the video quality sucks,
then we'll know I made a mistake. I've still got my old GoPro, so it's fine. If I have to go back, I will. But I think this will be good. So in the next video you see, we'll see a proper farewell to our beloved gimbal.
Yeah.